All right, today we're looking at this thing. Right, so we'll be making something like this in After Effects using Photoshop and After Effects. So let's get right into that. So open up After Effects. We already have another one. I've done this about 3 times now. So create a new composition first of all. New project, new composition, new everything. Don't need to save anything. Yeah. So you open up After Effects. There's nothing in there. So we're gonna do first. Next is let's go to Photoshop and make some of the assets. We need an egg for this one. You could always use different assets. You could use something else. So I'm gonna make my width and my height about 1,000 by 1,000, and I can keep my resolution at 72 because it's just working with video. So I'm not expecting to print anything. So resolution can stay at the default 72 pixels per inch. All right, to make an egg, it's very simple. We use our ellipse tool that's in the vector tools in Photoshop. And just so you can see the egg, I'm going to invert my background. And the color of our egg is going to be white. So I'm simply going to take this shape. I'm going to just drag it out. And if you want to scale from the center, it's Shift and Alt. Pull that out. And carry this down. Next, because this is a vector tool, you always have access to their nodes. 4 nodes for this circle. And just pull that up. And that, ladies and germs, is our egg. We're not quite done. We need to make the crack as well for this thing. So what I need to do is kind of rasterize this egg, and then I can always split it up into parts that make it look like it's cracking open. So one, right click, rasterize layer, and simply take a polygonal lasso tool and just cut across the egg. And of course you need to close back that path. Once that's done, Control X to cut and Control V to paste. Now it's not going to paste in the same exact location, so you can always just move it up until it gives you that look. And that's your egg. I'm also going to delete my background because, quite frankly, I don't need it. So I press delete and do that. Now we have this shape. Now if you feel like it, you can always stylize your egg, have some color on there, more round, or if you want to put some different things on there like a gradient overlay maybe, if you feel like doing something like that. But for now, because we want to maintain some flat style graphic, we just leave that white. After all, we can always throw any additional effects in After Effects. That's why they call it After Effects. All right, so once we're finished, save this file as a PSD. So let's just throw this egg in the egg layer. So week 4, and I'm just gonna put this as egg, right? And that's that. Press OK, save, and you don't really need Photoshop too much anymore. So back into After Effects, let's import some assets. One, let's find our egg. That's in the week 4 folder, right? Egg.psd. And you have different options like Photoshop sequence, footage, composition, maintain layer sizes. So I'm going to choose as import as footage. Press open. It's going to ask me a few questions. Do I want to have editable layer styles? Do I want to merge layer styles into footage? Kind of want to have my editable layer styles. And also my import kind is composition, retain layer sizes, because I have layers. Press OK. And you'll notice that you have an egg composition that has the entire egg in there, but that composition is broken down into 2 parts, this layer and the other layer. Now we could always use this composition to create or egg cracking thing, but I'd rather animate in the main timeline. So what I'll do, that's one composition. We just do composition, a new one, and 1920 by 1080 should work. Duration, we're going to keep it at about 6 seconds. So make sure it's 0, which one's the first one stands for hours, then the next one minutes, seconds, and frames. So 6 seconds. If in any case that you have this up in a different um, display way in terms of frames, you just count 24 times 6 and you get how much seconds you want. Okay, let's press OK. Alright, so we have this background which has nothing on there. I'm going to insert a new solid just to give my image some color. We can choose different colors we want to use. Maybe you want to use something in the bright orange. Maybe you want to use something else that's blue, subtle blue. Nothing too overbearing in terms of saturation, but use things. And you press OK and OK again. So we're done with that part. I'm going to lock this layer because we don't really need it for nothing else. And for the egg, we have a composition here, but we also have the egg layers, 1 and 2. So just highlight both of them, pull them into your composition window, right? You could even snap it to the center if you want to, and it pops out like this. Now we have layer 1, which is this one, and layer 2, which is this one. Right, so you just pull that down. It might be a little offset. You just use your arrow keys to kind of guide that along, right? Now, if you notice in our video, the egg cracked from the side, which means there was a rotational axis here. So our pivot point needs to be in the side here. So what we're going to do is go back to our composition here. And you'll notice that for each of these layers, the pivot point, which is that little target in the middle, right? That's a pivot point. We want to make it so that the egg cracks from that pivot point. So we're going to have to move this pivot point here. So we're going to move both pivot points. This one here, we'll leave that. This one will move. So we have a pan behind tool here that allows you to pick the pivot point or the anchor point and just put it there. And if you want to rotate, you have a tool here called the rotation tool. Shortcut is W, and you can always do that. Of course, if you're going to rotate from the properties, press R and it pops up in the properties, and you can rotate with the rotation in mind. Once that's done, you can always just close your egg back again and you get that. Now, the size of this egg is rather large, and here's how we're going to do this. One, I'm going to set up my rotation. So I want my pivot point for this bottom egg to be here. So what I'll do is move my pivot to the base of this egg. So when it's rotating, it rotates from the base. And then we're going to do some parenting. So the top part of the egg is going to be parented to the bottom part of the egg. And we can just use the parent pick whip, which allows you to pick what you want your parent to be. Not so in life, ladies and gentlemen. You cannot pick your parents. Just get them. Be grateful. All right, moving on. So now that we have a parenting here, right now it says the parent is the shape 1, right? So if I decide I want to rename this and call it maybe egg base, right? So now we have the name there, and we just rename this one egg top. If we move the egg base, the top part is going to move with it because they are parented. Now I also want to scale it, but I want to scale it outside of itself. So I'm going to add a new thing, a new null object, which is practically a blank layer that really only keeps position, scale, rotation, and all these different things. Right? So I'm going to use this pivot point here, this null object here, and I'm just going to pivot my egg base. Right? So egg base is going to be pivoted to this. And because I want to control the scale, it's going to scale from here. I don't want my egg to be that big, so I'll just put it down like so. And what we're just doing is putting together the elements we need for our composition. I can also play with the positioning as well. So I'll just move this to the top using my pivot point. Okay. Next, we need a shadow. And you can simply create a shadow using an ellipse tool. So here we have the shape tool in um, After Effects. Here's how I use it. You hit new, create a new shape layer. That's going to give you complete nothingness. Then you're going to add to it a ellipse, which gives you that shape there. All right. From that ellipse, you're going to add a fill, which gives you a color. We're going to choose, black as our color. It's the most useful color we have. All right, so next you're just going to choose your ellipse path and change the size. Now right now these two are locked together, which means if you change the X size, the Y size is going to change. But we want to unlock it by clicking on this constraint proportions link, and now you can transform the X and the Y separately. So it's creating a shape kind of like this, and also like this here. Okay, so let's move that down. So I have our shape layer here. Let's move it down to about here, and just move this layer below all this fanciness. Now that shadow is kind of dark, so we could do one of two things to kind of just make it nicer. I just hit F4 a while ago, which toggles your switches and modes, which you can find down here at the base, and change it from normal to perhaps overlay. Oops, wrong layer. Let's choose a shadow. Choose overlay or overlay, which gives the kind of darkish blue. If you're not comfortable with the overlay, right, you probably even try soft light. Sometimes gives us a softer look. And the cool thing about using the blending modes, if I decide I want to change, for example, my background, and choose layer, solid settings, and change the color to something else, and you'll see it here, it changes along with the colors. So if you blend your modes well with the black, no matter what you change your background color to, the shadow will definitely work out. So rather than keeping your shadows black, you could always keep it black and then blend the blending modes. You can also play with even down here the opacity. I'm gonna press T, that's my shortcut, and you can even lower the opacity if you still think it's too bright. Alright, now there's a few things we want our egg to do. I'm gonna save what I have so far. So egg rattle a 2. Okay, so we definitely want the egg to rattle from left to right, and then eventually crack open. So it's gonna start there first, and then probably at about 20 frames. What do we need to rotate? We need to rotate. We could rotate the base, right? Once you rotate the base, you can actually rotate everything. So I'm going to start with the base of the egg. And what I'm going to be transforming is the rotation. So we'll deal with the egg first, and then we'll deal with the shadow. So rotation, hit that, and that's where it's going to start. And then just simply move it over to the left. We'll play with the timing afterwards. Use the rotate tool. The shortcut is W. Just have it rotate a little bit to the left, a bit to the right. Right, so it looks a little something like this. And these are linear keyframes, which means you're not going to see any slow in, slow out, unless you highlight these, you right click, you choose keyframe assistant and choose easy ease, which is that. Press F9 is the shortcut, so it slows in, slows out. Right, so let's say it does that and then comes back up to the initial rotation, which was 0. Right, so it does this thing. It's like, and then maybe you want it to just be like that for a while. Pause first, copy. So I'm just highlighting all these. I'm going to press Ctrl C to copy, Ctrl V to paste, which gives me that pause there. So it's going to rattle about twice. 1, 2, 1, 2. And then afterwards, I want it to jump and crack open. So from this position, so we're going to have to play with the position now. So hit the position keyframe and the scale keyframe because it needs to jump. I want some squash and stretch. So I'm going to hit position. Position's already on. Hit scale and just play with it here. So 1. Let's change the scale, is it? Squash that down while bringing this out. Right? Oops, I'm changing positions. Let's squash this in. So you just want to maintain the volume. So bam, I mean eggs naturally don't squash and stretch, but it's nice to think that they probably could. So carry that up, carry this in, right? Like one, and then it launches up like so, right? So you have to maintain your scale as well. So I'm going to turn that on for the scale, but scale has to kind of go back to normal, which is 100 here and 100 here because it reaches the highest point. Oops, it's kind of locked together. So, right, so we get something looking nice. So bounce, oops, oh no. So here's the problem, the position moved. So we're going to copy this keyframe for position, move it to where before the egg moves up, paste that there. So it looks like this now. Down, up, and I'm going to change my position here, or my scale, position, up, and then afterwards it comes back down, or stays up in the air for a little bit, and comes back down. So that's position again. And of course it needs to squash and stretch because it's cracking. So I'm going to copy my scale, right, back to here and paste it there in scale. So get something like this, down, up, squash, and back up again. Oops, copy that frame and paste it. So it jumps, squashes down, and we want to crack open now. So how do we do that? Well, not too tricky. Set this back to 100. Set this to 100. Right, so we have our ordinary size and shape. Bam. Right. But at the minute it hits the ground again, you kind of want it to rotate. So the top of the egg now, this is where we're going to play with the rotation, right? Because currently there's no rotation keyframe. Hit that rotation keyframe. So you're starting off at 0 rotation, and you kind of just have it out like this. And because our pivot point is right there, it's going to look like this. But you don't want to just have it open up just like that. You kind of want to, what I like calling, overshoot it. It's a principle of animation. Sometimes you use it. It goes out like that more and then falls back like a hinge. Bam. Right? And let's smooth this out by hitting, highlighting, hitting F9 to smooth out the animation. Yeah, so now we get that. Now the whole animation, let's just check all the keyframes by highlighting everything that we have so far and pressing U brings up all our keyframes. If there's any keyframe we need to change, perhaps here, we can highlight them all, press F9 just to smooth them out, and let's see how they look. Just scrub through the timeline. All right, so we have that. Now let's check the timing. All right, so some parts might need to be a little faster than some parts. Up, goes up. So maybe you want this to go up a little faster. I'm going to remove this. Or leave it. And just move this up some more. Just bring the time up some more. And when it's falling, it needs to fall a little faster. Same thing with the egg positioning. So I'm going to move that over. So it comes on fast as well. So up, maybe a little hang time is good. Up, down, like that. One more thing wouldn't be complete. What about a sound effect? All right, let's find a sound effect. I think in the downloads folder I have, and there should be one that has some egg cracking noise. Egg, 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 egg. Whew, I can't seem to find my egg a sound effect. No. 12. Go ahead. You know what? I can't find this egg thing. But let's see, let's see, let's see. Let's just look inside the folder itself and locate that egg sound effect. Egg. All right, cool. So we have short egg cracking sound from Soundbar. We'll just pull that into After Effects. Drop that there. And we can always throw this sound effect inside this. So when it cracks open, you can actually hear it. So this tells you where the audio file starts and where you're going to put it in. So if you hold CTRL or Command, depending on what your machine is, on Mac or Windows, you can actually scrub it and hear the sound of an egg cracking. Let's see if we got it. All right, I can't hear anything. And that could be because my playback devices are different. So let me just change that a little and set as default device. Press OK. Right. Let's go with that. Let me just check the audio settings. Audio. Hmm? I can hear something. There we go. So the sound is there. It's really tricky to hear. But then afterwards, maybe you want the shadow now. We need to deal with the shadow. So you can make any kind of words pop out of this egg if you want it to. Oh. And let's deal with the shadow now. So shadow needs to move left and right just like the egg. So let's play with the shadow. So I'll just hide all these other properties. And the shape layer one is where we have our shadow. And just to kind of maintain consistency, I'm going to open up the frames for this one as well to make sure they are on the same keyframe. So we're going to set our transform properties for this, the position for this. Then it moves over to the left slightly. Right? And then over here. I'm holding shift so it snaps. This goes back to the center. Stays where it is. Does the same thing over again. So I'm going to copy these. Less work for me to do. Paste it. Now the fun part is where it actually starts jumping. Here, so I'm going to set my scaling to be like this. And then have the scale, I'm going to unhide this, and the scale is going to be on the x-axis, like so. So it does this thing with the shadow, it's going to jump. So therefore, shrinking this, it actually reaches up here. It shrinks even a little bit more. Comes back down. Right, so I'm going to copy this, paste it, and eventually goes to the squashed look. So I'm just going to borrow that squashed look as well. Copy that, align that there, and last but not least, copy this last keyframe so it fits right here and snugly so. Of course, don't forget to save. Once using a computer, crashing is prone. So let's play with the scale and position that position right here. Right, so each other appears normal again. Then you have that. Crack open. And let's just use a text for now. It'll say hi. We're in a more interesting looking font. Or maybe not that. That'll do. That is bada boom. And change the size. So maybe I put this high at the back, behind the egg. Right. Maybe I'll change the color to something else that could fit. Some like that. Press OK. And you want this to jump out from behind, so I'm going to make sure that this appears only after this thing. So I'm going to move this. You just drag this to an earlier position, so you could have it pop up like that. So it only appears. Yes, I can. So let's say I put the position down here, P, right, position, and when it cracks open, this thing flies out. Go up, overshoot, comes back down, right, and then we smooth that out. F9. Okay, so this is smooth. And then you play it back now. So the timing looks. Ta-da! And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how you make an egg rattle, crack, and open. Hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Have a nice day.